Hello. Can you
Hello
hear?
there.
Oh.
Yep, I'm here. I'm just going to lift this up a little bit. Move stuff off my. Better. Higher. Oh. All righty.
Oh, I can't hear you.
You can't.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Should I log back? Still don't hear anything?
That's weird. It says that your mic, oh, now it's not. It looked like it was moving for a second and then it's gone back to nothing.
Do you want me to go out and come back in?
Yeah, that's odd. Okay, let me just check if it's on my end. I'm gonna go here. Maybe it was me.
Computer audio. Okay, how's this?
Nope, still silent. Yeah, it's not showing anything on this side either this time. That is odd. Now that I'm set up here.
Is there a test that I can do on my end?
Speakers should be there. My volume's turned up. I do not know. This is where I wish I was more tech savvy.
I don't either.
Yeah, my speakers are on.
Is there a way I can test?
Don't know.
Test my. Speak and pause. Hello.
Okay, got that. Speakers should be the same. I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, so your end is working. Okay, let me check my test speaker and micro. Yes, do it.
Yeah, it says my end's working too. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Now I can.
Okay.
What did you do?
I was trying to log in with my phone, but
no,
I hadn't even gotten that.
I don't know. That was an odd one. Magic. Well, sure. Like, you know, the technology gods there. It works.
No, all your skill. Yeah, whatever you did.
Yeah. Lack of techno skill. There we go. All right.
Oh, oops.
No, get on.
There we go.
Go.
Did you get my email today?
Yes. The videos, okay. Right?
Yes.
I have them ready.
Oh, cool. All right.
We can look at them today. And I just wanted to go over to like what the goals are for, or what your goals are for this session, since we're kind of starting again and it'll be a little bit of a new format. So we were definitely, like last time, we were looking at creating engagement. So is that still where you want to go? You want to expand on that a little bit?
I guess I want to always keep aware of that, because
Yeah.
if I, she could go back there easily if I
Yeah.
stop.
How do you feel she is now, like compared to where we started?
Much better. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that from
Yeah.
that. But she's in heat now.
Okay.
And so now we can test to see if maybe the hormones in those 2 months
Yeah.
after, affect her. So
Yeah.
that'll be a good test.
Yeah.
But
Because we thought that had something to do with the first time around, right?
yeah, well, it was a
Yeah.
guest, right? As soon
Yeah.
as I learned about that, then thinking, yeah, that, the time frame worked. So we'll see.
Okay.
So that, yeah, definitely, to keep her engaged. And then, maybe increasing the speed, like you were saying, through the last time, me using what's the word?
Anticipation.
Yeah. Anticipation. Yes. Okay. Now I'll remember.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big one. Just to change up the style a little bit, like a bit of stop and go, just to put more emphasis on your gas pedal, right? To put more emphasis on the speed, because I don't think she's going to go into like where we can't control her type thing.
No.
Like, I don't think it would be hard to bring her back down if we needed to. Like, so I always err on the side of creating like a little bit more crazy than we really need. Because with that personality of dog, right? Because I find it easier once you have that, like she comes out of the box and she's really, really, and you've seen that progression with Hustler, and that I built it. And now I'm like, oh, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
So now it's like, dude, and I can bring him down, but like now it's like I kind of like that balance, because it's so easy to convince him that working is a good deal now. So he's like, yeah, I want to do it. I'm like, great. Now let's just go from like here to here. I never thought I would say that with him, but he's a little.
And that he was so cute as the demo dog.
It's hilarious. I love that dog. But yeah, like then I was like, okay, shh, you're on camera. You have to be quiet. And of course, I taught him to bark. So now it's like, anytime he wants something, I taught him to bark. So now I'm kind of paying for that a little bit.
He'll show us your great skill in teaching.
Yeah, I'm like, a little bit less, just a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of where I feel like we can go with her too. I think there's definitely more in there. So just, figuring out the little tiny tweaks now that she's, we're not having to try and convince her to actually want to work. She looks in the videos, she looks good. Like she wants to do it.
Yes.
So now I would say we're kind of focusing a little bit more on the explosive power.
Yep.
Because, her gait, like she's definitely on you. She looks like she's happy to do it. So we'll see if we can get a little bit more like speed right off that first step.
Yep.
Is going to be the big one for her, because once that becomes the pattern, like that's what they're used to doing, then you actually don't have to do anything to create it.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just levels that we have. So initially it's like we have to put the work into creating engagement. Like you worked really hard with her on keeping her engaged and making it a good deal for her to want to do it. Now you don't have to work so hard at that because she's bringing more to the table herself, and it'll be the same progression with the speed. Initially, we have to be very aware of what we're doing because we haven't created the new pattern yet. But then as soon as that becomes the norm, you actually won't have to do as much, right? In fact, we may end up going the other way, or we have to ask her for a little bit less.
Well, and I have experienced that. you
Yeah.
know, actually at
Yeah.
class one day, and it was like, whoa, who are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
But,
And that's why I always say to do both, right? So
yeah,
because they do like over time, they'll switch personalities a little bit, but it usually doesn't take much in those scenarios to just bring it down that little bit, right? Okay, so we're on the same page with that, which is
awesome.
good.
If you had any other suggestions too, I'd be willing
Yeah,
to
I
hear.
think that's going to be the main one, because handling wise, like obviously I can tweak little things like in the course. We're moving into handling stuff now, so we're going to be going through, you know, the wraps, K turns, reverse spins, all the fancy handling things, which would be more about you because she reads them quite well. But I
Yeah.
think the main thing is going to be coming at those skills with the gas pedal and the brake kind of philosophy behind it. So I'm going to be tweaking it a little bit more with you in how to do, you know, how do you get more explosive power like out of a wrap, right?
Yes.
Because she can turn tight. That's not going to be a problem. So how do we maximize your handling to make sure that you're really getting the power coming in and out, right?
Awesome.
Because
That's
timing wise, you've got it. Like, you know how to do the moves, right? Like it's not a matter of, you know, learning how to do the mechanics. It's going to be the how you're actually executing it.
Okay.
Right? So little things like that. Okay.
Cool.
Good. So let's move on to the videos. Make sure I can find the right screens here. So let's do this. Okay. All right. So you can see can you see my screen there?
Yep.
Because I'm sharing it. I was like making sure I'm sharing the right screen. Right
Hear
screen.
you. I can see the screen.
I'll send you to like a blank screen or something. I'm like, I don't know.
It's snowstorm.
Yeah. All right. So tunnel throttles.
I was
So
trying to work. I was trying to work on the tugging.
Yeah. Good. That was nice. So when she did let go of it, you immediately kind of moved back, which was good. So that was a little bit of release of pressure. So I like that piece. And then she does seem to like the chase a little bit. So I would just keep it moving a little bit in the beginning. That's good. I mean, it's okay if you help her a little bit as far as helping her grip it. There you go. That's good.
It was kind of interesting. She's usually pretty good at gripping, but this one she wasn't. So
yeah, and it's I can't tell completely if there's something kind of going on there. So I'll just watch that piece again. So play is good. Sometimes because she's still chasing, which is good. And as long as they're getting the chase, I'm not as concerned about that, because the chase is where most of your motivation is going to come from.
I was going to say, the chase part is really big for her.
Yeah. So that's nice. I like her intensity there. Good. So that was actually quite a bit of power off the line, which was good. Like her first step was actually a run, which sometimes what she'll do is she'll trot first and then run. And then here, that was nice. There, she's pushing you a little bit, which is good. And then the only thing I would watch there, and it's actually not really a problem, but just be aware of it, is that she was backing up as she was barking at you. So that is one. It's very subtle. It may not be an issue, but sometimes it can start becoming pressure sensitivity.
Okay.
Right. So if you find, I'm a little bit too far back there. It's okay. So if you find when she's prompting you that she's going backwards, all I would tend to do is just take a little step away from her and see if you can do a little bit of a draw. So it's just going to be, right. So that you see how when she barks, like she's sliding back.
Yes.
And then if you're looking here, you're leaning forward as well. So there could be like just that piece of it. So when you notice her back up, just change you and lean your shoulders back. Like you can even take a tiny step back. And if she's doing the push pull with you, she's still connected. So it's not necessarily a problem, but it just lets them know that we saw that. And it's just always checking to make sure that they're not taking offense to how we're playing. Because if that were to be her, like I feel too much pressure, I'm backing off, and then every training session we accidentally do that, we may not be playing by their rules. when it comes to play, and then that diminishes our toy drive,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas if that's part of the game for her, like that's kind of a little bit of an investigative thing, because if that's actually part of the game for her and she likes that, like if she were to back up and bark and you were to take a step and she would come in, and then you were to lean forward and she backs up and barks and comes in, that can actually be a whole new game, right? And that can be something you can do. Like I used to do that exact thing with dice outside the ring without a toy.
Oh,
So I would lean forward, she would run back and bark at me, and then I would lean back, she would come in, and then we would just do this push-pull.
yeah.
And she loved it. She loved it, right? And that was actually something I could do with no toy before I would go in a ring.
Okay, cool.
So, right? So even if I don't think it's bothering her here, I think we could very easily turn this into actually a person type. Yeah, like a game that we can put on you, and not necessarily just, about the tugging. So I always look for those things, because the more
Awesome.
ways I have to engage with the dog in a way that they like, that doesn't involve food or toys,
Yes.
then when I'm in a situation where they're not prevalent, like I don't have food on me or I don't have toys on me, I can actually keep that connection going. Because to me, that looks like what she's doing. Yeah, because her motivation level there is awesome. Like she is wanting to go.
Yeah.
Like, that is a huge difference for her. And tugging wise, that's good. She's getting some weight shift there. I like the energy transition. So that was really good. You just kind of taking some of the energy out of the toy, and she understood that perfectly. Very nice. Yeah. And again, she's getting more power now. So she's not doing the little trot steps. She's actually shifting back and pushing forward. So that'll be good. There. And then there I would give a little bit. So I would move back, go a little bit more to chase, because we're getting stuck which tends to be because we're taller than they are. We get stuck into this constantly leaning over top of them. And sometimes that can influence their grip on the toy, because they just feel like it's a ton of pressure. But it's not deflating her at all. Like she's not bothered by it. It just might be causing some of that regripping stuff. Because here, as you're moving more with your shoulders, she seems to be more engaged with the tug itself. Good. Yeah, she's getting good lead changes there. So yeah, the skill looks really nice. So she's reading the threadle. You're pushing into her quite a bit now, which is actually what we want, because if they're going to go off course again, or like go back into the wrong end of the tunnel, it's almost always from that little bit of pressure. She just slipped a little there. That wasn't you. That was, she just kind of went, oh. She just had a moment of balance. Good. Yeah, I really like the body tension she's keeping. Like she's maintaining that excitement level all the way through. That's actually probably the best I've seen her. Right?
Awesome.
Like she's really like, she wants to do it. You're gonna have a hustler yet.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you'll have a hustler and have to calm it down a little bit. Okay, so we'll do our cue, sit, cue. Have a little bit of the volume on here. Nice. Good energy. So that was a good pause there. So here I would pause. This is where you can bring in a little bit of that anticipation. So wait until you see her reorient to you. So just stand still, wait till you see her reorient and then move. And it's going to make it look like you're going faster than you are. If she goes and gets the cookie and you're walking, right, it's like driving on the highway. So she doesn't see that acceleration part. So if she doesn't see it, then it's going to look like, you may be going the same speed, but it's not going to look as fast. Okay. So we're going to end up using a lot of stop signs with her. Good. And then you can even add it in a little bit there, because her cue control is really good. So when she goes into that sit position, see if you can get that explosive power coming out of it, because the sit for her, like she's doing it really nicely. There's no issue there. So I would just say, can we get her to almost like lift the front? Like she pushes so much, those front feet actually come off the ground when she does it. So here I would just pause. That's nice. Good. And then we would add the tension here. That was already better. Nice. And then pause and go. And you just want a little bit of a quicker step there. And this is also a place where you get to practice stepping with the leg closest to the dog. you did step, but you stepped with the outside leg on that one.
I have caught myself.
Which just doesn't, it's fine. It just doesn't look as fast, right?
Yeah.
So if your entire shoulder and your leg move forward at one moment,
Yes.
right?
No,
It's
yes,
such
I
a
get
quick
it.
motion that they,
Yeah.
So the key for her is going to be just really capitalizing on those quick motions, because again, her cue control in the sit is nice. And I wouldn't worry too much about getting that like super, super independent. Because at this stage, we're not looking to make it into advanced calculus for her, right? Like, so she can do it. She's using a little bit of your body language. So I wouldn't go into extreme proofing of that, if that makes sense. Because I think you might lose a little bit of your forward, right? A little bit of that drive.
We're just doing this really so that we know that she can use her rear, right, for jumping.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. And we want a little bit of that cue control as well. But again, with her, we're trying to do more of the stop and start. So this exercise is actually really beneficial. We're just putting the emphasis on the start, like the power out. So we're and that's a piece that a lot of people kind of misinterpret with when we're trying to motivate, is that we really do want to stop. Like we want to add in those hard stops because it makes it look more faster when they come out of it. And this is why with a dog like Dice, the Greg Darrett system worked really well, because it involved a lot of like stop and go, right? It was like run, hard decel, run the next place, run, hard decel, run the next place. So it actually was very motivating for her. Like I thought transitioning to the kind of the new handling system back then would speed her up. And there were certain pieces of it that did, but I actually think the deceleration was beneficial for her because it made her want to chase me. Whereas when I started to smooth things out, it was less likely that I was going to be late, but I didn't really have an issue with that in the other system either. But what I found was I actually had to get a little bit choppier with it on purpose because I was losing a little bit of that acceleration. Whereas with the over the top dogs, it was so nice to have something that was smooth motion. And that's why we said, it was much less likely they were taking bars and stuff when we started to smooth their shoulders out. But there are times when you're motivating where it's actually, hi, Jack. He's allowed to drop a bone. No, it's not your business. It's like everything is my business. Everything that dog does is my business. He really doesn't like him like at all. He's like, he's too rammy and he's too big and yeah.
Well, I remember that's what you had me working on with Rose at one time that I brought, and Bree too. Based like when you had the very first drill of the speed drill, basically just jump, tunnel, jump, tunnel, get your ass moving, Carolyn. But but to actually, to run them into the tunnel and wait until they're coming out, then run again. Like it's not. No, I can get distance with her, but that's not the point. The point is that I need to speed her up coming out. I do remember that.
Yeah. And that's, we want to have a balanced skill set. So, because they can change, right? So there could be a time where, like she's turned on the afterburners and you just gotta get out of touch, right?
Oh boy.
I had that with Hustler during one of my runs, and it was like I thought it was funny because even when I walk the course, like I have to walk into the tunnels with him because like I can get ahead really easily, right? So I have to really plan to run right up to everything, and my hands are swinging and my voice is going. It's like there's a lot of like acceleration, and then he decided he was just gonna like find a new gear, and he took off, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get outrun by
Hey, Jess Martin got outrun by her dachshund.
The judge is one of my students, and she was like peeing herself laughing because I was like, "Holy crap, you're gonna actually beat me!" And I had to like sprint all of a sudden. So it was like I'm like faking it, and then I'm like, "Oh crap, I gotta actually run to get my front cross." I'm like, I'll never live down the day I'm late with Hustler.
Now, did it last long?
It was probably about like 3 obstacles. That was back when I would like his first trials, and he does get tired. Like it's because what I had realized after that trial is that when I practiced with him, I was doing like 13 obstacles, right? So when he had to actually do like a full course, he just wasn't expecting it. He's like, "We're still going?" Like,
yeah, I'm counting.
Well, because like it's
you went over 13.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like when stuff is really spread out, like it'll be he has to be in better shape than most of the other dogs do, because if you get into like some of the UKI courses where things are 20 feet apart, which is great for the big dogs, but that is like a football field for him.
Yeah.
So I was still figuring out like how many runs can he do in a day. I'm gonna do some CPE with him this year because they're shorter.
And they're at your place.
And they're at my place. I just have to actually like register
now,
my dog.
Will you start in level 3 or will you actually start in 1?
I have no idea. I haven't got that far yet. I don't know any of the rules.
Okay.
Yeah, for him, it wouldn't make like the difficulty of the course wouldn't make much difference to him, because like running straight, like if it's easy, he's like that's good for his motivation.
Yeah.
Right. So it probably wouldn't matter so much with him. Like he can run an international style course skill wise. But for him at this stage, because he hasn't done many competitions, like he's maybe been in 3 competitions, it'll just be about making sure he's having fun in the ring, right? That he's connected, he's trying hard. Lush might be a little bit of a different story when I get her started, because she's a little bit of a psycho. She would just rather chase me than anything else. So she's the type of dog that would just like skip all the stuff and just run and like bite me in the butt. Like that would be her and bark at me the whole time. When she gets high, all she can think about is catching me. Like that is just, she's like, I gotta catch you.
Well, just make sure you're in front of the obstacle, on the other with the obstacle in between.
Yeah, the more longer sequencing I've done with her, the more I've realized like she just needs to balance out a lot of obstacle commitment. So she would be the type of dog where if I put the toy behind me and ran, she would ignore the toy completely and just chase me. Right? Wow. Like that's always my test that I do for motion sensitivity.
Okay.
Because actually a lot of dogs will do that. So I'll put the reward behind me and I'll run past it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right. So they have to make the choice. Do they slow down and get the toy? Oh, yeah. Or do they ignore the toy and just come to me? Right.
Chessie would definitely go to the toy.
Yeah. Lush would, it's hard for her to take anything that's behind me. Like she just wants to catch up to me as fast as possible.
Yeah. I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I'm making an assumption, but yeah.
Yeah. That was a tough one. Heist actually initially probably would have been the same way. And that led to a lot of his issues too, because he would get so focused on what I was doing ahead of him that it would distract him from his jumping. And then he would then he lost confidence, and it just became kind of a cycle. So I think in the one video I did with the multiple toys too, if I had a toy up ahead, he tends to ignore the one that's closest to him. He wants to get to the one that I'm at. And it seems backwards because he's such a toy motivated dog. But that's that race mode. So if I was retraining a dog like that, or a dog like Lush, I do a lot of rewarding back, like tossing my reward back, and not as much of rewarding from hand.
Right. Okay.
Right. Because whereas if I have the opposite and the dog is not driving hard enough to get to me, because it could be the total opposite factor, then I'll switch that. I'll do a lot more rewarding from hand, right? In any
that makes perfect sense.
given exercise. So if they start running by things, like if the obstacle commitment starts to break down a little bit, I'll just make sure I'm tossing back. Like I think in the one demo, then
Oh, that must be a herding thing.
Yeah.
Herding.
Often it is. Yeah, because the herding dogs are so tuned into motion.
Right.
Like their goal is to, run things and cut it off. Like that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't, my non-herding dogs did not have, like my duck toller didn't have that at all. She just wanted the ball. She was like,
that's simple.
Yeah, she was very much like, okay, here's the ball and who can throw it the furthest? You are now my best friend. Like she would totally like throw me out the window if there's somebody who could throw further than me. Yeah, there's like, she's a very self-centered dog.
Loyalty, come on.
Yeah, I remember I tripped I ran into a jump, broke the jump in the ring. So running down the last stretch, she ran ahead of me. She got ahead of me. I hit the jump, was on the ground, broke it. Like actually I broke the plastic lattice. Wow. She went out of the ring, got her ball, came back in with the ball, looked at me. She's like, you're useless. Runs out of the ring, runs back out of the ring, spits her ball in front of one of the other people I trained with and just started barking at him like, she's useless. Can you throw this?
Step up.
And I'm like, I feel like that summed up our entire relationship right at that moment. Was like,
now up to the point where she ran out of the ring, would that have been a pass? Because the dog didn't knock the bar or the jump, you did.
No, like I can't remember. And that was before the rule. That was before the rule of exiting the ring, right? Like you could actually, you could set them out because that was like 10 years ago. So there was no rule about them not being able to exit the ring. So I don't actually know. I don't know if she was like totally finished, because if I hit the jump and she wasn't totally finished the course yet, then it would be. Yeah. But I don't
already jumped it.
If she was already like out of the ring. I remember that happening to someone where their dog finished, they were behind and they slipped. And they took out the jump bar. They actually slid underneath the jump.
Wow.
And like underneath it and hit the jump bar themselves and knocked the bar off. And the dog was done. And I can't remember what the final verdict was. I think I was just like, huh.
So if you've never run CP, what do you normally run? What organization?
I would do mostly UKI.
Okay.
So I do a lot of UKI. That would be, if I could only do one organization, I would absolutely do UKI, hands down.
Why is that?
I like the course design. So I like the course design better. I like that I don't have to run any novice events. I can just run open events. So I can do I can basically skip my dogs right to international level. Because you get points from any of the events. So if I go into, let's say, Master Series, which is an open event, anybody can enter it, doesn't matter what level the dog is. And then I get a clean run and I get placement points. I can actually get my titles based on those points. And so you could get your championship title and never do a novice run.
Wow.
Yeah. So for some of my dogs, I like that a lot more. They also have it because it's points based. If you were to run clean at, let's say, one of the cups, where the points are based on how many dogs you beat. So how many dogs there were in the class and what your placement was, you can actually move up in like a day, right? Through like 2 rounds, you could move up. And it's not how many cues you get, right? It's how many points you get. So if you have a good run, but you win, right? You get more points than if you run consistently, you get 4 points each time. You can still move up, right? So, I mean, it would just take you a little bit longer to get your points. But if you have a dog where, maybe they don't run clean all the time, you could have like one good day and you could, move up through the levels. So that's one of them that I do.
That's definitely
that I do like.
Yeah.
It depends on the dog though, because for a dog like Heist or Jolt, who need courses that are like novice courses for that style of dog is just, it's too open. So they lose their brains. And like Heist, I remember when I started him, I was doing AAC because there was no UKI, and I would do I would do a starters round, and then I would do an FEO masters round. And then I would do a starters round, I do an FEO masters round, because I did not want him learning to just go straight and run fast. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Jolt will probably be the same way, because I don't want him to learn just to extend and go straight, because he'll get way too high. Like he's definitely one of those dogs that when he gets opened up, he goes real fast.
I think well, I mean, with CPE, I think you'll find that that'll be okay, even if you're at level 1.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
Well, and plus depending on what game you're playing.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
There's a lot of,
yeah.
Anyway.
And the dogs that I will be running in CPE for the most part, like the initial trials we'll have next year, it'll just be Lush and Hustler. So with my small dogs, I'm not as concerned about it, but with the big dogs, it's the spacing, like the spacing between the jumps when they put like that 15-foot distance. That's so when I compete with Jolt, because I mean, he's 26 inches tall. So like he stands next to a 24-inch jump and he makes it look small. So my biggest concern with him, because he'll be old enough at the end of the season. So I might end up with the CPE, but I've got to see what the spacing's like. Because if it's too tight and they do those like slightly off jumps, I just don't want them doing anything too kamikaze. Whereas typically in UKI, the spacing is bigger. I don't think they have.
What are they normally?
18 to 20 minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is AKC? Well, you wouldn't do AKC, but how about CKC?
CKC is supposed to be, I think they said it's supposed to be 18, but it's often not. But it's not.
Okay.
Right.
I thought AKC was tending to be bigger courses.
Yeah, because I have a couple of students who are like CKC reps, so they're very big on like the rules of CKC. I'm not a fan. Like CKC, I'll do it because I need the points to get where I need to go. Right, like you need them for world team qualifications. So if I didn't, I would never do CKC. I can't say that in my outside voice because it's bad, but I don't, they have the strictest rules, right? So they're most expensive. They have the strictest rules as far as training in the ring and you get faulted for stop of motion, things like that. So I don't like the rule base. I typically don't like their course design, which I do not blame CKC for. I just think they have a lot of outdated judges. So that's not the organization. That's just the judge, the experience of the people judging. Because like I said too, like you can get crappy UKI judges if they're, if they're a bad AAC judge, they're going to be a bad UKI judge. Like it's right. Okay. But yeah, so CKC is definitely not my favorite, just because like I can't choose to train in the ring. UKI also, as far as that goes, you can decide to train in the ring at the last moment, which you can't do with AAC. So the fact that I can walk to the ring, not have decided yet if I'm doing FEO or not, and then walk in and say, actually, I'm having a toy, like at the last moment. I like that because for some dogs, you don't know, right? Like they could be having you could enter in advanced FEO and then be having an amazing weekend, and now you can't switch it, right? So that's another thing that I do like about UKI.
Is UKI the one that the Darretts created?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, which is why it has more of an internet, like typically the courses are more international style. So it's definitely the skill level you would have to have even to do a novice course. Like you would see a wrap or a backside novice. Like you could see that, right?
Really, you should.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree. Right. But that's kind of one of, something that for some people that might be a difference, right? And I think a lot of it is, I mean, I like the organization because I like how it's structured and I like running those styles of courses. Doesn't necessarily mean for some of my dogs that it's the best venue for them, right? So Hustler can do it, but he would probably be much more suited to something like CPE just because it's shorter Shorter courses, it's a little bit more straightforward, right?
Yes.
Whereas with my international style dogs, like that is my goal to go on international courses. It gives you a chance to actually do it. Whereas AAC, I don't mind AAC. I would definitely go to AAC trials, but it very much depends on the judge, right?
Okay,
I've had some AAC courses that I'm just like, I can't even fix this. Like this is just Kazi.
Have you ever gone to the McCann facility to do any of
Yes.
their runs?
Yes. Yeah. So I did, they were doing UKI.
Okay.
They did a couple of UKI trials. So I went there for that. They actually had a club that rented there for CKC, but they weren't running it. They were just renting out their facility. So I've gone there for those ones too. But I was really hoping they would keep doing UKI trials. They're becoming more popular now. For a while, they were very hard to find.
Okay, because well, we don't have much up here anyway, but what we do have is CPE, and she's running an AAC, hoping to get people on their way to nationals. I guess, what is that, August? It's in August. Anyway, but it's never been a very big
thing.
Big.
Yeah, we have the split. We definitely have a split here. The UKI people and the AAC people are a very different crowd.
Both together or different from each other?
Like there's definitely people that would go to UKI and they would not support CKC or AAC, right? Okay. And I mean, some people do both, but it's a lot. UKI tends to attract a lot of the competitive international world team type people. Like those are the people that are coming. So the vibe of the trials can be different.
All right. So world team, I'm sorry. I don't.
Oh, the world teams are so confusing because there's so many of them.
Well, there's world agility. So WAO, right? WAO.
Yeah. So in WAO is the qualifying is UKI.
Okay.
So the qualifying organization is UKI.
Okay.
So those two are linked. The AWC is CKC. So the AWC team and the European Open team are the qualifying body is CKC. So anyone who wants to be on those teams has to get their CKC excellent titles.
Sure.
Right? So that's why we end up doing CKC. And then AAC sends the IFCS world team, right? So they have their own, usually there's a tryout at nationals. It's based on national tryouts and points.
Okay.
Whereas the one that's based on CKC is an actual tryout. So you have to go to the tryout to actually do it. It's not just points based. And then the WAO is actually based on points from the Canadian Open, which is their national, and the spring and fall cups, right? So if you go to spring and fall cup, you can get points towards getting onto the WAO team.
One of those cups has been at McCann's, has it not?
Yeah. Tryouts has. So tryouts has. So the tryouts for the CKC team, I think it was at McCann's twice actually. So that one definitely has. And now who knows what's going to go on after all of this, because CKC is the governing body, but the problem is if you don't live in Ontario, you don't have any trials. Like Ontario is the only province where we have a lot of CKC trials.
Oh wow!
Because Red Barn does them pretty much every month, whereas some of the other provinces they have one a year. So if you have one trial a year and you have to get to the top level, like you gotta. I knew people that were flying to Ontario to do CKC trials to try and get their legs so that they could qualify for the team. Wow. It just was crazy.
They probably have problems getting to any trial whatsoever. In all likelihood, there probably aren't any UKI or AAC trials either.
Yeah. There's more UKI now starting to happen in the Maritimes. There's a couple of people that are really pushing for UKI there. And there's some happening in BC, but they're few and far between. Like they had a hard time in BC from what I was told when I was there getting UKI going. So it's taking off slowly. It definitely took off in Ontario the fastest, because we have several different clubs that offer UKI trials. So
I've been really impressed with CPE, and I was kind of snotty, and I'm not, I'm not really a competitor, but when I did compete, I was actually doing AKC because there were no trials here, and Michigan was, we'd go to Midland all the time to trial. But so CPE was just, I thought it was a little pedunk organization, but now that I've experienced it, and I've run some dogs in it, I see where it's really a wonderful promoter of the sport. It gets the people who, you start there. I would promote any of my beginner class people to go here, have fun. You're going to win a lot of ribbons, and for some people that's really important. So but it's still tough. It's still not tough, but it has difficulty. It's still, you're having to, practice good best practices. So anyway, I was impressed.
Yeah, I just didn't I didn't put the effort in last year, but mostly because Hustler wasn't ready to trial. Lush wasn't old enough. So, and Heist and Hijack don't need more competitions. Like they're they're seasoned, experienced dogs. By the time we get back, they'll be in like veterans, both of them. Heist is going to be 10 in April.
Oh, wow.
And Hijack's going to be 9 this year. So I was like, time flies. But for my young dogs, especially for Lush and for Hustle, and it's at my property as well, right? So it's just a really good way to get into it.
Yes.
So I'll admit I was the same way. Like we used to make jokes about CP all the time, but now too, more and more, I choose my organization based on the dogs that I'm running. So if the organization is more suited, like Hustler, like I want him to learn that agility is fun, it's exciting. He doesn't have to run like the gauntlet of 20 foot distances between everything with backsides. And, like I want his first experiences to be very positive. And so I feel like CPE is a really good organization for him.
Yeah. And you would be, not that you're ever stressed, but you would be less stressed probably with CPE.
So I just have to like figure out how to play it, but I'd say with Lush doesn't need a lot of complex things. She does the complex skills very well. She just needs to learn, like it'll just be arousal up, arousal down will be the big thing with her. And it's straightforward. Courses are great for that, because she collects very easily. She's not going to be one of those dogs that just, goes out to China. That's just not her. But really making sure that she, that we have good criteria on things, and, she doesn't get too chasey and stuff like that. So that's,
as long as you have your goals.
I haven't done enough with Joel, sequencing wise to have a clue what I'm in for with him. I really don't know. Because we haven't done much, just because he's so immature physically. Like I haven't even done, like, oh, I do jump grids. I'm like even jump grids initially would have been a total disaster with him.
Wow.
Because his legs were growing so fast that every week was like he didn't know where his feet were, right?
Are you doing Cavaletti with him?
He is doing a bit of Cavaletti. Even that was definitely a challenge. The main exercise I've done a lot of with him, and I'm actually super happy with it, is the weight shift with speed to a toy. So that has been, we do that every single day. I'll line him up and I'll get him going from like 50 feet away to a toy. I'll hold a holy roller in my hand.
Yes.
And I'll be like, get it. He'll take off, he'll hit it, I'll let it go, and he'll just fly past me and bring it back. Or he'll run in, and within probably about 3 feet, I'll say, leave it, and he'll drop his rear and come to a total stop.
Okay.
So that's been my big thing, is like, can you stop your motion? And because all I have to do is shift the toy up a little bit, I've taught him how to really slide into that stop. So he looks like a quarter horse when he does it. Like that rear end drops right down. He's like, okay, got it. So now I feel like jumping is something that I'll work on with him for the next, in the next couple months. He'll do a ton of set point. Like even his jump grids weren't bad when I did do them. He actually surprised me. But I don't want to rehearse him hitting bars because the Malinois are so predisposed to smashing things. Like they just really like he took a chunk of plaster out of my wall the other day because he hit it so hard.
Wow. I mean, that must have hurt. You know.
Yeah, but like they don't get it. Like he's kind of like, cool. Like it was like a little, I think he was seeing stars. He got up, he was like, oh, like Joel, seriously, because he tried to turn the corner, went too fast, slipped, boom, right in the wall. And I'm like, seriously, like a chunk of plaster.
Wow. Wow.
And like even outside,
you're gonna have to pad your room.
I was like, my whole house is gonna have freaking rubber floor in it for him. It's like padded walls the whole time.
Or you put little rubber booties on him, you know, those ones that look like balloons, you know, that just they just like latex.
My gosh, so funny. And then even like, you know, it's been cold, so many of my dogs go outside and they're holding the paws up. I have never seen Joel hold a paw up ever. It can be like
because he just doesn't feel it.
I seriously think the Malinois, like they don't feel things the way normal dogs do because they're so used to putting so much physical pressure on these dogs.
Wow.
Like they just don't stop. Like they'll just be like
to watch you with that bite bar.
That was fun.
And I go, oh my God, this is not right.
I love it. And my friend's like, I could play with that dog all day long. His intensity for biting stuff is just like total. I'm so like a magnet to that power. I absolutely love it.
Do you ever watch Denise Fenzi with hers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I love the intensity. You know, I love the ring sports. I would definitely love to get into bite sports with him, but it's a lot of time commitment, and agility is where my main passion is. But ever since he was like young, right? Like, and the snapping, like I love the snapping of the teeth. So he does that constant, every cue you give him, he snaps his teeth because I just love it so much that I reinforced it, which was great when he got that part in the TV show. Cause like, right. Like his intensity and how hard he hits. But yeah, I had to actually watch how much I was doing that stuff with him, especially when he was young. Cause it is hard on them, right? It's a lot of tension on the jaw and on the neck.
Right, okay.
Doing sense. Those, right. Cause he pushes into you. So when he hits the tug, it's not just him hitting it. Like he actually slams into you. Like he pushes that toy into you. And we encourage a lot of that, right? Like I've let him take me down a couple times, and just the natural tendency, like he wants to take you out. Like if I let him take me to the ground, like that is just, he loves that. Like that is his absolute favorite. And he'll have the bites, like the bite cushion in his mouth, and he'll just slam it into you repetitively. Like it's just a like, chug harder now. Okay. You gotta let me get up, buddy. You gotta let me get up.
When are you buying a sleeve? Or the legs? Let him. That's what Denise has, is those things that go around the legs.
Yeah. I will absolutely teach him probably to do that. I haven't decided. He will learn to bite things. Like he will do some sort of, whether it's just, I have a friend of mine who does it for personal protection. So she doesn't do sports. She actually trains military dogs. So whether I do it as just a thing that he's trained to do with not a sport attached to it, or whether I go either IGP, right, the arm sleeve one, or whether I do French ring.
French ring, or what's the other one?
Mondio ring is another one.
Yes.
Yeah. Mondio, because they all have their, it's like the different organizations with agility, right? So I you know, doing the IGP or IPO, what they used to call it, is like that would be like your AKC or CKC. It's very regimented. They're only biting the sleeve. Like it just has a lot of rules to it.
Yeah.
When you get into French ring, it's like they can bite anywhere on the suit. They don't have the track, like there's not as much in the obedience and the tracking phase of a French ring. It's much more about biting stuff. Like French ring is about, you know, they do the guarding. French ring, they like the decoy will try to like mess your dog up. right? Like they'll send the dog to the leg and the guy will wait for the last second and try to move his leg out of the way so the dog misses, right? Like that's the type of thing that they do in French ring. Whereas when you're in IPO or IGP with the sleeve, like they present it to the dog, right? It's very much like they want the dog to look good. And the Mondio ring is how much environmental weird stuff can we throw at them, because there's no consistency in it.
Okay,
So
that's what Denise must be in.
yeah, Mondio ring is a challenge. Like it's a lot of fun, but like the objects the dog is retrieving, like they may never have seen before.
Right.
They'll do the healing pattern like up a flight of stairs. Like they've done that stuff before. Like the healing pattern can literally be over or under or through anything. So it's very much like they're looking for dogs that can handle any environment. I think they can actually in that one hit the dogs. I forget which organization. It might have been a different one. It might have been Europe. There was one where they actually had a water jug, like an empty water jug, and the dog had to break through a wall of them, and then the guy like the decoy actually like hit the dog lightly, but actually hit the dog with it to try, and they spray water into their face. So they have to go into a wall of water. Like it's like crazy.
I mean, the dogs are amazing to do that. I think Denise actually has I watched some of her stuff training, and she has like it's like, I don't know, a piece of plastic or something that she kind of, it's even a little puppy, you know.
Mondio ring. I have a clatter stick, so I have a bamboo stick. I have the clatter stick. That's what they use in French ring. Okay. I have the padded foam stick, but the foam stick they use in IGP, it doesn't make noise. So they do touch the dog with it, but it's padded foam, and the clatter stick makes a lot of noise, and it's right next to their head. Right. So like that's a big one. And then, I think Mondio, I don't know all the rules on Mondio ring, but when I was researching different bite sports, I was like, I should not get into this because I could get very obsessed with this.
This is not right. This is really,
well, I really like it.
Not right.
Yeah. Like I really, I would so have another Malinois. Like I'm a little too obsessed with the power. It's, he's a really cool dog to do things with.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but we'll try to make him into an agility dog, and if that's
do that first.
If that's an epic fail, then we'll see. Well, because the whole reason I got him was because his mom is like super talented agility dog. So we'll see what he's like for that. But if he fails out of agility, I'm like, okay, maybe we can be a bite sport dog. Even though my friend makes fun of me all the time because she's like, really, he's a marshmallow. I'm like, I know, but, like, really, he's so like ridiculously sweet, that dog.
Yeah, but you see the other, like when he pushes you to the ground and wants you to touch.
But like it's funny because he doesn't have an edge though. Like when he takes you to the ground is because he just sees it as this big game. Like he's such a goofball. So there's no anger in this dog. Like some of the
isn't that that's the perfect thing?
I know.
If he will do the game without anger. I mean, that's the perfect dog.
That's just him. And his dad is exactly like that. Like his father is the poster child for that. Like let's 8-week-old puppies crawl all over him, and like just they're very sweet dogs. So we will see if a CPE is in his future here. I try just to see what we have, but I'm looking forward to it actually. I think it'll be. I'm assuming we can run trials by then, but it's in my backyard. It was a great group of people.
I mean, I can't see this summer being any different than what was last summer. I mean, depending on the variants, but I would think that they will be doing the same thing. So it's in your backyard. Take advantage of it.
I'm gonna try and get out to a few again, just because I have young dogs. So definitely I'll be doing more trialing this year than I probably have in the past. Because once you have experienced dogs, like for me, it's about getting points for things or going to the big events. So
yeah,
I didn't do a lot. Like Hijack, I think just got out of starter standard in AAC. Like I don't have an hatch on any of my dogs since Dice, because I just don't care about it so much, right? But I, regionals, national, like I would just go from big event to big event. So it would be, your cups, you'd have your spring cup, your fall cup, you'd have your regionals and your nationals, right? And then you'd have your world team tryouts or whatever it was. Like that kind of fills up your whole.
Yeah, and as long as you can do that without having atches and whatever, then there's only so many jumps in a dog, right?
Yeah. And for me, like I really like training. Like training is a big thing for me. So I love big competitions. And I love the training element of it. So this year will be a bit different because I have young dogs that I need to get some miles on. But yeah, like just going, the whole going for a weekend and trial, like it's not the same social that it used to be, right? For me, probably because I do agility 24/7. So
yeah, exactly.
When I get to the weekend, sometimes it's like I just want to not do agility.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that.
All day, every day.
Yeah, for us, it's just different. We work, and then fun is the agility on the weekend.
So
sometimes
we'll see. I might get back into it. I am looking forward to doing the CPE stuff here. And yeah, it went awesome last year. We had no issues with anything. So we just got to figure out our parking, because that was a bit of an adventure.
Yeah.
We're just not set up for that. And they just kept getting more and more people wanting in, which is awesome for them, because like to actually fill the CPE trials, like they had to turn people away, which in CPE is like, we don't get a lot of that.
No. Yeah.
Like normally there's
what I know. Yeah.
Space.
At least the trials up here don't ever fill.
Don't fill.
Well, because we're in Sault Ste. Marie. Who's going to come up to Sault? I mean, and again, in the summer, no one was supposed to be going to different districts. You were supposed to stay home.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see where everything's at. Yeah, we're still so up in the air, but I'm just hoping to, like, once we're outside, it'll hopefully be a little bit better.
Yeah, we'll be wearing masks for another year, I'm sure.
Then I just have to figure out how I can wear a mask and not get a sunburn.
I
was already thinking of that because my sister's supposed to be getting married in July, and she will kill me if I have a mask tan.
Yeah.
Like, see, like that's something I wouldn't even care about. I'd be like, whatever, I work outside. What do you expect, right? But
for the rehearsal dinner, just do that. Something wrong?
She was already giving me lectures about what kind of shirts I can wear for the dress and everything. She's like, you've got to get tank tops that are lower down than the ones I wear, because she doesn't want tan lines. I'm like, isn't that what spray tan is for? Like,
well, I know you were doing that makeup test. That was one.
Oh yeah, for a while, I was like makeup testing.
She's pretty serious. Woo.
Oh, she is a force to be reckoned with. It's like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Because I love my sister, and so she's got like plan A, B, C, D. I'm like, you're still gonna get married? Like just push it back to the fall, mostly because there's a big CKC trial going on that weekend. And
well, at least it's Casey. You don't mind missing CK.
I know. It's just that if I think they're going to waive the rules for the world team the next year, because not enough people are going to have the points, right? Kathy, I appreciate that you want to play with everybody. Oh my gosh, you're like the most social. Knock my computer over. All right, well, we got off on a way off.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was my fault.
There's like bite sports going on.
This will be an interesting replay.
Yeah, I know. It's like bite stuff. He takes me down. It's way too fun. Way too fun playing with that dog. hopefully he doesn't try to do that.
And that's a
course.
good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's I've wanted that breed for nearly, I know, 15 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've been on. Dice was supposed to be a Malinois, but the
Oh.
litter fell through. And then so I got another Sheltie, and then this specific litter took 3 years. So they were trying for 3 years
Wow.
before they actually had puppies.
Is that a
so-
problem with the breed?
Not typically.
Okay. Right.
Like she went from didn't take twice and then 10 puppies. It was like because their litters tend to be so big. But then I got Hustler and I got Lush, and I was like, oh, I guess can't really pass up the Malinois now. waiting a long time. So that's always a bit of a
wow. Nobody better. Nobody better. You can handle it.
I have one now, and I do. I really do like the personality on him. So, but they're just so big.
You've worked at it too.
Oh yeah, he's not been a challenge or an easy dog in a lot of ways. It could have turned out probably not so good, but that like I knew that going into the breed, right? Like you just there's not very many people where I would say, yes, you should get one of these, because I thought I knew until I owned one. And then I was like, oh, these are in a whole other category.
So, like if you think you had gotten one 15 years ago, would you, like you have more experience and more training now, it would have been interesting, if you'd had.
I think I probably would have gone into bite sports. I think.
Oh, okay.
Because I've always really been attracted to the power of those type of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking for answers as far as like how do you control these things, because they're just so powerful, right? And their mentality is very different. Like, every emotion they feel, they bite stuff. Like that is just they're happy, they bite stuff. They're upset, they bite stuff. So I think what probably would have happened is that on my search to find help with that style of dog, I probably would have gotten more into the working dog people and side of things.
Yes.
Which is a very, very different world. So who knows where it would have ended up at that point. Of course, depends on the dog too, because I mean he's been a fairly good dog in a lot of ways. But yeah, like he could have been a 65-pound Tassie. Like very pessimistic, and still very hard to disengage. Like very hard to disengage from things. That is something we'll work on his entire life. Whether that's with people, dogs. So he's very optimistic now. So he's much more optimistic. He's very friendly. But that leads to other issues, right? So with the lack of disengagement, like his dog skills are terrible. Right? He gets too stuck on the approach, and then can't disengage. And then if he does, then he wants to hump them because he doesn't know what to do. And it just becomes like he has no social skills. He's very friendly. Like I would never worry about him getting it, like starting a fight or something. I mean, another dog might want to fight him, but yeah, we always joke he has no friends because he's just it's that intensity that he has with that, like, everybody should love me. What do you mean you don't love me? So that's it. We're working on all the dog stuff in Absolute Dogs, because they're convinced you can train that. So I'm like, all right.
No, I'm kind of disbelieving it myself. But anyway, we're trying to.
Me too. We will see how it goes. He's my experiment because he definitely has a broken chain. Well, it just never progresses. He gets stuck in the face-to-face and never goes out of the face-to-face. Like that is.
Has Tom spent much time on talking about the face-to-face aspect? I can't remember.
Just recently with their new program is going into a lot more of it.
Okay.
With
like you mean with the boot camp that's happening now, or yeah. I'm in there. I didn't remember him talking about.
I think it was lives. I think I was. He's done a couple.
Yeah, I haven't done the lives.
That I just it just happens to pop up, and I'm like, oh, I'm walking dogs. I'll like listen to the live. He had one that was really good. It was specifically about that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like just some of the ideas that I was like, I'll have to give that a go, because he's definitely the poster child for that. I mean, it's easily manageable because he ignores other dogs if he's paying attention to me. So it's not a problem there, but he, like, at this rate, he'll never be out with my other dogs because he just doesn't understand how big he is. So his version of play is way too rough for the little guys. So he just has to learn to just exist. And the disengagement has always been very challenging to get his eye off of anything, which is very much the breed. So it'll be interesting because, again, he's got the friendly part. There's no reactivity.
Thank
in
God.
him. Yeah, well, yeah, because trying to hold on to him is a challenge, right? Like, he's got a lot of power. He's 65-pound dog that decides he's going to go somewhere. Gives me a new respect.
You're conditioning him.
Yeah, like and he's great. He's great typically, like food and things like that. So I mean, if he's in work mode, like, he'll play magic hand, he will loose leash walk with me. It's when you're not like, when he's not in work mode, then he can be very much like, all of a sudden you're going that way.
Yeah.
Not so much, right? Just like he can do his boundary games and have, like, I can do small, like, sequences and things with heist and have him on a boundary, and he's fine. Like, he'll stay there. He's no issue with that. But it's those moments where he's like, he's not on cue. So I never worry about him with, like, dogs at competitions or anything like that. But if he's not on cue, like, letting him walk in a pack with my other dogs just would be a disaster. So we'll see how that ends up. But again,
do you think if you had let him do it as a tiny puppy, it would have been better? Or
the problem is that my group of dogs, Heist would have actually probably killed him.
Oh,
like I've got the ones that don't tolerate anyone coming in their bubble,
right?
And like, he just, like, you could not correct this dog hard enough to ever make him think that it's not a good idea. Like I mean, believe me, he and I have had it out a few times over things. And if anything, it just amps him up. It just amps him. Like, he loves it. He loves conflict. Like, fight him. He loves it.
Well, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, I learned right from the beginning when he wasn't very big. And I forget what he did. It might've been the first time he tried to hump me. And I was like, oh, so no, like, we're not doing that. And he just went 10 notches higher. He was like, I was like, this is not a good idea. So I went totally the opposite way. And to this day, like, if you physically try to tell him off, anything like that, his excitement level just goes through
bring
the
it
roof.
on.
Like, instantly, it goes into biting. It goes into, like, what we call the alligator roll. So you have him by the collar and he will just start flipping himself in circles. Like, it's just a, like, total over glazed over arousal. Like, just nuts.
I remember you showing us about pressure. I'm not sure if it was at your place or in Midland, and you basically with Heist, and just basically being 100 feet away and just starting in, on him, and he's going, woo! Go back to the bed. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not something you're saying that's not something you would do.
He responds to pressure well. Like, I can move him out of my space with, like, very little, but it's trained, right? So he's not naturally a pressure sensitive dog at all. If anything, he wants to come at pressure. So he would be similar, like, a lot of Aussies are that way.
Okay.
Right. I remember my friend, I was telling her that she had, using the chest pressure to get her dog to back up, and her dog went straight up. That would be what he would naturally do. But he's actually he's very respectful of space for the most part. But that's because I knew from day one what I know they like to run into things, and I know their sense of pressure is always to come at it. Because if you think about it, like, if you had a pressure sensitive Malinois in a bite sport,
it doesn't make sense at all.
Right? Like, they purposely pile so much pressure on these dogs.
Yeah.
Like even just with the training techniques, because you're like, okay, the decoy's putting pressure. They've got pressure from the e-collar or the prong collar, right? So like there's so many layers of pressure that these dogs are not like, they don't respond to, that it's just like everything means more and more and more. Like you'll bring the e-collar up to bring the excitement level up even higher sometimes. So it's very it's very interesting process. And then the amount of pressure when they back tie them, even like I watched one of my students who's very much into that, and yeah, like they had the table, and they had the dog chained to the raised table, and they will just like add pressure until the dog goes forward. Like that is, and like, so the guy would come in, tease the dog.
Yeah.
He's chained to a table, so the dog can't go anywhere, feels defensive. And then they keep pressuring and then they back off when the dog shows the outward sign, like when the dog lunges, right? So like a lot of these techniques that they're using for building it, like working dog sports, they use a ton of pressure. So the dogs that make it in those sports are dogs that can handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like they've got to have dogs that will take on whatever
almost
is coming,
creating a monster in a way.
It is in a way. It is, and there's certain things in that world. It's just part of why I haven't stepped into it. Is just because with him especially, I would want to really make sure that I have the tools, that I wouldn't have to do any of that, right? Because if you can get the result without it, that's fine. But like you have to be very careful, right? And that's when I would follow someone like Denise, or Shade Weitzel is another one, who are positive trainers in there, because some of those working dog circles, they jack the arousal level up so high, and then not all of them, but they just basically make the dogs crazy, and then just amp up the punishments until they can control it. Like it's a very different work.
Yeah, no.
Very different world. So as much as I love some of the things, I'm like not really willing to do some of it. So I just kind of been playing with the skills that I feel like I'll learn online and things like that, so I can take what information I feel is important. But yeah, is he a pressure sensitive dog? Oh no. At all. You could literally hit him with a 2x4 and he would not even flinch. Like there's no back off on that dog. Like,
wow.
Okay. Yeah, but fun.
Yeah. Glad he's with you. Because you can handle
okay.
it.
Yeah. I like it. I like it probably a little too much. He's a power trip of a dog. I really like it. The breed suits me quite well, which I kind of knew probably going into it. I was like, I feel like this is going to be a good breed for me that I'll like, and I would definitely have another one. But their size is like annoying. My little Shelties, I'm like, you're stackable, you're easy to transport. And you get these 65-pound monsters, and it's like, where do I put you? You're taking out my balls. Joel, that'll do. Get your bone.
Less grooming now.
Yeah. Although he's blowing right now.
Oh.
He's got so much hair coming out of him. Just jolty. Thank you.
Midwinter. That's weird.
All my dogs are blowing coat right now.
Oh.
Yeah, my house is like Dust Bunny City.
Oh yeah.
So much hair.
What vacuum do you use?
I use a shop vac.
Oh.
My sister was like, "You're serious?" I'm like, "Oh, it sucks up everything." I'm like, I did a vacuum, and it was supposed to be for pet hair, and I burned it out within like I think a month, and I went, "Screw it, I'm not like, you can't burn out a shop vac; it'll pick up everything." So yeah, I vacuumed my house with a shop vac, big shop vac.
I think that's an excellent idea.
And you just open
cheaper.
Yeah, and you just
Some of
suck up
those
like.
some of those vacuums are 600.
I know. I was like, oh, I could try to get a Dyson, but I'm like, my shop vac works really good.
Yeah, no, don't.
And then like I pick up a dog bone, and I'm like, oh well, I'll just like open it up, pull it back out.
Pull it out.
It picks up everything.
Okay, what brand is it? I've had a shop vac that doesn't pick up everything. So
I don't even know. I've had it for so long that I don't even know what brand it is. It's just
Okay.
like, and I've had to tape the hose back together a few times,
Oh!
but it still's got some good.
It's fixable.
Yeah. Well, because when I had rats, I had the smart idea that I would just shop back the bedding in it, like the paper bedding.
Yeah.
But it compresses with the suction. So what happened was it worked because that was great. I could clean the rat cage in like 2 seconds, just shot back all the bedding out.
Yeah.
But then it compressed in the hose. And so no air could get, and it was like crap. And it was so deep into the hose that I couldn't unplug it. So I actually had to take an X-Acto knife and like open it. And then I just duct taped it back together. So then I learned, okay, I guess I can't do that. I should probably like dump out the bedding first and then use the shop vac for like what's left, not just go like, but it was great. I was like just pick up everything.
I wouldn't have thought about compression.
I didn't until it was like, it was like, there was no way you're going to be able to push anything through it. It was like rock solid.
Do you still have rats?
No, they all passed. So pretty much every one of them got cancer.
Did you ever tickle your rats?
Not on purpose.
Well,
but
there's some videos out there.
My rats were cool. Like they were super affectionate. They just like, I loved my rats. I did, but they didn't live very long, and I ended up having to get all of them euthanized. Because they end up with cancer, and then like it goes from bad to worse, like really bad. And so because I had 4 of them. I think I had the whole family at one point. And then my mom would never come downstairs because she's like, you got what? It's like, I got rats. They're super cute. Want to see? She's like, no, I don't want to see.
Pink little tails.
Yeah, that's it. Like she thought they were cute if she just saw the faces, but the tails she like could not handle. So no more rats. We're slowly downsizing the animal other animals.
How long will Walter live?
Typically like 10 to 12 years.
Oh, okay.
Generally. So yeah, he's six years old now. That's why Facebook always reminds me. So I was like, oh, you're 6. I forget how, which means that my goats are they're close to that too, because I got them all kind of at the same time. Okay. But yeah, he was so little. Now he's not little.
No.
He's like 100. Boy. Yeah, it's got to be at least 160 pounds now. Like he's a beast. he's not big as in like tall. He's just solid. Like just very solid. So probably good that he's no longer in the house. Yeah.
Jolt agreed with that.
Jolt loves him, and Walter would kill him in 2 seconds. Like if that pig ever gets out, he's going for Jolt because Jolt is such an idiot with him. Jolty, stop.
He said, you keep saying my name.
Yeah, he loves to run up to the fence, and the pig will charge him like from the fence, and Jolt just thinks it's the best game ever. He's like, ha, I made you chase me, and the pig's like, I'm gonna kill you one of these days. And he doesn't get it. He thinks it's fun. It's just like,
again, the whole pressure thing.
Yeah, runs up, barks at him, pig charges him, he runs away, and then he runs back. Yeah. Jolt. Thank you.
All right, where to?
All right. All right. Questions about any of that stuff? We'll go back on topic for a split second here. So yeah, I would just add in, it'll basically be adding the stop and go into all the exercises that we're doing in the course tomorrow. So wraps, K-turns, reverse spins, not so much. but it'll be about adding those pauses and those anticipations in so that when you come into those turns, it's like pause and then go. So think decel is your friend, because it's going to draw a lot more attention to your acceleration. But her attitude looked amazing. Awesome. Yeah, like she's super happy to work, which is great. And then I would just play around a little bit with that back and forth, kind of use that pressure with the toy and see if we can get that to be a game you could play. Because I think that would be a really good one when you don't have anything that you can realistically do, like even inside the ring, right? You could go to the start line even if you need to and do a little bit of back and forth. It takes seconds to do it, but it's any of those games you can play when you actually are in there are a really valuable tool, right? Because people won't even know what you're doing. Like it happens so quickly that it could just be a back and forth moment, like right before you get started or line her up or whatever it happens to be. And it just gives you, it's like the secret handshake, right? Like nobody else knows what's going on. I have a lot of those with my dogs, and then I teach and I tell everybody my secrets, and they're like, "Oh."
Well, you were teaching the trust technique last night.
Yeah, exactly. Beginning stages. I just can't call it that legally. Then I have to be like, this is for you. I can teach you, because then it's technically not the trust technique if I'm teaching not the animal. I'll go down that road later on this year and get all that stuff.
Finish up.
That'll be a different. I'm excited about that, because that will be a whole different direction for some things. But once once all these programs are done and we're not in COVID anymore, because I do actually have to go to people's homes to be able to do that certification.
True.
Yeah.
Well, if you're outside.
That's going to be the only, I still haven't quite figured out what I'm actually going to do with it once I do it, only because it like you have to do it one-on-one, and like I can't teach it at a seminar, for example. Like when I do the qualification, it doesn't allow me to teach groups. It only allows me to teach one-on-one people.
Okay.
So that'll be an interesting, okay, how do I make this work and not go back to like all my hours?
Well, how are you going to fit it in the first place? But
but I'll at least get it done, and then I'll see how I incorporate it, because they're pretty good about helping with those sorts of things too. So even if I could do can I do consultations and then put them into online group coaching? Because technically I've already taught them. So does that count? Kind of like when you're doing the absolute dogs things, you got to know all the rules about how you can do things. I was like, so do they count it? If they send me an email, but the response is through an autoresponder, does that still count as my student?
I haven't gotten there, obviously, but but I get it.
You can do it, but I'm just like, because I don't really want to, I don't want to give one-on-one consults to all these people. So,
well, it's been interesting seeing how you changing things to what, a concept, well, like the rubber band. Instead of the bucket, you've made it a rubber band, so if you can change their thing into your thing, then it's yours.
Yeah, well, and that's why I said the present practice technique, right? Because I'm happy to give credit to where the things are coming from, but I can't teach their technique without being certified in their technique.
Right.
So so it's kind of that in between, because I'll still talk about buckets and things, but in the method I was using.
They changed. I mean, it used to be a sink. It was a sink in a bathtub. That's what I heard years ago. So they took that and made it into a bucket.
Yep.
So
right. Well, just like they took the It's Your Choice game on the floor and turned it into mouse. It's the same.
Oh yeah.
No thing, right? It's all
actually I was not happy. The first few things that I saw of theirs, I thought, oh my God, they're just, I wasn't happy. Because I'm coming from Susan Garrett, so I'm like, but in many ways, their whole thought process of trying to get us to think of whatever we're training as a game, everything's a game. I think that's a really smart move.
they're marketing geniuses, like how
Oh
they've
my God.
structured everything. And even seeing it now, like now that I know more about that side of things, I'd be like, wow, you were planting those seeds for like 2 weeks ago. You started using that phrasing. You've been priming people for weeks. Like how orchestrated so much of it is, and you don't realize it at the, like, even I didn't catch it. And I was like, when they did their, I don't know, some sales thing that they did later on, and I was like, you've been using that phrase for 2 weeks in like all of your free stuff, right? It's so just priming people to think a certain way. And I did the same thing with the tools, right? It's the exact same thing.
Yes, you did.
All my lives I talked about tools, right? Yep. Didn't know what it was, but it's like I got every single live I did, I got people to agree that they needed tools, right?
And I find the marketing part fascinating.
It's so in depth. It's just like, and then I watch what they're doing and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just, there's so much to learn, like ridiculously. Like when you start to figure out how all those pieces work together, it's like, wow, right? Well, there's always something.
I mean, that part takes up so much time, you know, and thinking and planning.
And even just learning it, like that's been something that, you know, like I know how many hours and ridiculous amounts of money I've sunk into that stuff. But I mean, this launch, like compared to what I've done in the past as far as launches and stuff goes and programs, like this went way bigger than I was.
Awesome.
Like, I couldn't keep up with it, right? I was like, okay, maybe I'll like 50 people would be good, 100 people would be amazing, and I'm like 250. Like that's the stuff works. I don't know. It's like, what? Well, like for an intro, because like I don't consider myself overly experienced teaching online, so there's been a lot of learning curves along the way. But thankfully, because if I didn't, I would have like, I'm unemployed, right? Like we can't have classes right now. Like if I didn't have online, like,
and not everybody,
nothing.
Not everybody,
right? Nothing. Like that I already had done. I'd put in the last couple of years. I had my platforms. I know how to work the tech, well, somewhat. So there was a lot of pieces that made the transition easier. But when you're looking at, you know, in some of the pro dog trainer groups, like the people commenting in there, like they're stuck. Like they're not sure what to do, how to get people in, right? Right. They've got 3 people in their classes. You know, it's a challenging situation. But at the same time, if we didn't have this whole thing going on, I never would have been able to do it, because it's been
right. It would, yes, or you may not have done it because you didn't have.
Yeah, like even just the sheer amount of work, like I wouldn't have been able to teach full time and do the amount of things for this style of thing that I did, right? Because there was a lot going on. Even just the launch, like there was a lot going on behind the scenes trying to get everything to work.
No, I can imagine.
It just was like, well, even now people are like, so when we come back, I'm like, we're not going back to class till March, because I got to get the next thing, you know, ready to go before I go back to teaching in person again. So like, guys, we need a little bit.
The next stage will be, you'll be hiring people, you know.
It was funny because my mom, she's like, well, I'm not doing very much at work right now. Like, do you need help? Because after the first day of launching with the whole Facebook thing, I was like, I can't, every time I open up my browser, it's like ping, 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 ping. I'm like the messages just don't ever stop. Ever. I was like, I'm not prepared for this. Like, I'm only one person. Like, this is just me doing all this stuff. Right. So like any of the tech things, or people can't log in, or, you know, Stripe issues or whatever. And so I was like, hey mom, you want to be my Facebook assistant? And they didn't get it. Like when we were doing the launch for this program, I had all 3 of us were on computers in the room at the exact same time. And it took 3 of us to pull off that amount of people, like coming in. Okay, this person's sending e-transfers, like make sure like, because there's a bunch of people too that didn't want to pay through credit cards, so they were paying e-transfers, so you have to add them manually to things, and then double checking things, and then any discrepancies. I was like, holy crap, we got like family business going on right here.
And that's
right?
awesome. That's awesome.
Just during the launch week, the rest of it kind of tapered down a little bit. But I don't think
you got to keep these people engaged now, right?
Yeah.
Keep them.
I was like, oh God.
So that's a whole nother.
At first I was like, it's like degrees of panic, right? You're like, oh, maybe nobody will like it or nobody will sign up. That's like the first stage. You're like creating something. You're like, maybe nobody will sign up. And then you're like, yay, people signed up. And then you're like, oh my God, now what? Now what?
Yeah.
I told all these people they could ask questions, and now there's 150 questions on the one thread, right? How am I going to do this? So it's been really fun, and I love the group that's in there. So it's been a good experience, but definitely there's a lot to learn. There's a lot that I didn't know, that I still don't know, that I'm still changing things, and
that's what fun is, the adventure.
Yeah, well, and being able to train it, like teach it in my house, because I have no training facility, right? So I'm like, I need to pick things that I can actually show and make people feel like it's worthwhile. But like, I don't have a training facility in my backyard. Like, I can't go to my building and film stuff. So like, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. Right now.
Well, and that's been the beauty of this, is that you've been in a small room like the rest of us.
Yeah. So, and I feel like that's actually been a benefit for me, because even if I was teaching it in a small space, but in a big building, it still gives a completely different feel, right? I'm like, nope, I've got my one jump, and I've got my cone, and I've got my step stool, and that is what I'm working with.
And your invisible dog.
And my invisible dog. And I just came up like this whole thing. I just like constructed it. I was like, well, let's see if people will relate to this. And
well, it does.
And it did. And I was
totally
like, okay,
relatable. It's totally relatable. That's why.
Well, I was like, I don't know. We'll just throw it out there.
That's been awesome. Now next week, our facility is opening up next week.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah.
I think I'm not starting my classes until March, but that's kind of it's part of it too. Well, a lot of our areas are still in lockdown, and they're still I don't like the majority of my students are from Toronto, and like they're really not supposed to be traveling outside of their area.
You want them to stay right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a class, and it was a private lesson, and the person found out she was COVID positive. Like, I had one of my students that tested COVID positive, and I had just, I was teaching her. I mean, we had our masks on and we were disinfecting things, and, obviously I never got it. But that it's scary, right? Like, yeah. And luckily she wasn't in a group class. And after her class was a 2-hour gap, where I trained my own dogs. Right. So it wasn't like she had a lot of contact with anybody. But yeah, like I'd rather wait, but I'm going to see if I can rent the training facility. So I'm going to be like, can I go and rent by myself and do it? And which I'm sure she'll let me do that, but I'm holding off for a little bit on classes. I just want to see where things are at with everything.
Yeah. Well, we're in an area that's a little,
Oh yeah, we're close enough to the hot zones that it's.
Oh yeah, that'd be scary.
It's a little bit scary, but yeah, and because I wasn't even sure if we would get. I was like, God, we might be outside by the time we actually get the okay to go.
Yeah,
So even now, like I'll only have because we don't have much snow right now. How are you guys for snow?
We have snow. I mean, we have it.
It's if we don't get a lot more than this and it melts, we're going to be outside April.
Wow. Okay.
Because our field dries super fast.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I hope that for you.
Gravel underneath. So the good news is that in the springtime, it dries, and I've never seen standing water in my field ever. The bad news is in the summertime when it's hot, we have to water every day.
Okay.
Every day we've got water on that field because it just soaks right through.
You have that little creek by your house. So there is water under there. I mean,
there's wetland all around us.
Yes.
It's just the raised up part of the field that has gravel under where the actual field part is. And we downgraded it. So we didn't put the gravel down. We found that out when we had to till the field, and we found out how much rock is in there because we picked stones for 3 months. But when we brought in the machinery to grade it after we had tilled it, because we didn't really know anything, so we thought if we just kept tilling it, it would get flatter. Doesn't. You just pull up more and more stones. That's all we did. So we had them actually it actually slopes down. And the field itself is on the high part. So it's good in the springtime, or if we get heavy rain, because it literally it drains super fast. But in the summertime, we definitely have to. Good thing we have a deep well.
Yeah.
Because we're constantly running water on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, you could be collecting water too, having water barrels and stuff like that.
But yeah, well, we do have the pond if we ever we've got our whole pond back there too.
Right.
And the creek. So there's wetland all around us, but the field part, hopefully it'll be. I just want to be outside again. I love being outside.
I remember being in there. I was there in September and could not believe how hot it was. So I don't know how you get through the summer.
I'm very much I just love being outside. I would rather be outside and sweating and stupid hot than indoors. I don't do well inside.
Well, you're in the perfect place.
So
I would melt.
Yeah, especially,
and my dogs would melt.
There were a bunch of days last year that I canceled because it was just too hot for the dogs.
Yeah.
I wasn't that concerned about me, but because I can sit in the shade, right, and direct from sitting on the shelter. But it was too hot for the dogs. So
yeah. Well, again, my dogs melted in September. I had to change. I was just going to run rows, and halfway through was like, no, she's dead. I'll bring Bree out, just to have a fun run. Yeah.
Backup dogs.
Or the other way. Okay, listen, I'll let you go. I've been holding you on too long.
All right. Good.
All right, so I have nothing to work on other than what the program is.
Yeah, so it'll be all the things, but work on the play for sure. So that will be a big one. So work on the back and forth, and see if you can create a little bit of a game out of that.
Yes.
And then I would just, so keep working on the stop and go, but I would just incorporate it into all the stuff that's going to come in tomorrow, into all the handling, because again, you know the handling parts, so it'll just be maximizing it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a great night.
Same to you. Take the dogs out. All righty.
Apparently they're all over me right now.
They know it's the end.
They always know. They always do.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.
Bye.